As the end of 2023, there were 20,576 Subway locations up and running. Do you know how many of those are corporate owned versus franchise owned? A whopping 0. Do you think that's weird? Before you answer, check this out. McDonald's, on the other hand, has 13,455 locations, and guess how many of theirs are corporate owned? 691. Now look, just because Subway doesn't own any locations themselves, that's not a reason to not buy them, right? I guess we'll find out. So let's dive into the 5 reasons not to buy a Subway franchise. Now, if you're new here, my name is Tarek Johnson. I had 9 failed businesses from the ages of 18 to 27. And since then, my last 3 businesses have all done 7 figures in sales. And that all started when I bought my first franchise back in 2015. And one of my missions is to help decrease the high failure rate of small business owners that I experienced, really just help business owners win. But enough about me, let's talk some business. So in 1965, Subway was founded by Fred DeLuca and Peter Buck. And at the time, Fred was only 17 years old. Pretty young, can you believe that, 17? And so Fred and Peter originally named the company Pete's Super Submarines. Kind of hard to say, a little bit corny, I know. Thankfully though, they went through several name changes in their early years, finally landing on Subway in 1972. Shortly after that, in 1974, they opened their first franchise location, meaning they had an individual owner and operator who put up some money to go, hey, I want to own my own Subway as well. And so during their peak, they exploded and expanded with over 37,000 locations in 100 countries. But Subway was family owned for almost 60 years. But in 2023, they got bought, which leads us to reason number 1. They were just bought by a huge private equity company for over $9 billion, with a B, billion dollars. Think about that for a second. You buy a business for a of money, 9 billion to be specific. How do you think it changes the way that that business is run? Subway was still privately owned before that, and so when a private equity company buys a company, what do you think that their number 1 priority is? Do you think it's you as the franchise owner? It's probably to make sure that they get a return on their investment. It's to make sure that people who are investing the money into the private equity company, that they get their money back. So the decisions that get made in the business aren't to favor the franchisees, it's to maximize profits for the parent company, especially if none of the locations are owned by them, because none of the decisions they make would hurt their own stores. Does that make sense? Like McDonald's owning 691 stores, they've got to be cautious about the way that they make decisions because they own and operate stores too, and they can use their stores as a testing ground and take the risk instead of having the franchisees take the risk for them with things that may be unproven and may not work. So, if McDonald's plans to roll out a policy that franchise owners have to follow, well, they have to follow it in their 691 stores too. All right, reason number 2, Subway has closed a wild amount of stores since 2021. In 2021, they had 22,190 stores open. That year, they closed 1,043 stores. Then in 2022, they closed 571. And in 2023, they closed 443 stores. Guys, that adds up to 2,057 stores that is closed. That sucks. Those are real people, real everyday people who own those stores. And to be fair, 2021 was rough on almost every food business with the regulations and COVID and people staying home. There weren't really many businesses that weren't negatively impacted. My franchise I owned in California, the sales actually went up by almost 40% in 2021, which was interesting and another story for another time. But then my store in Florida, because it was by the beach and no one was going, those sales went down. But look, take McDonald's as a comparison. In 2021, they had just over 13,000 locations open and they closed 247. 2022, they closed 11, and in 2023, they opened 8. So let's put the math in perspective here. Subway had 10% of their locations closed down in the last 3 years, and McDonald's had 2% close. So Subway had 5 times the amount of locations closed from a percentage. And I'll tell you why that is in reason number 5. So make sure to stick around because that's pretty sad. Reason number 3, they don't make money. Okay, well, obviously that's not fully true, but here's what is true. All franchises are required by law to file something called an FDD, a franchise disclosure document. Now, you can only tell people, potential franchise owners, how much money is being made if It's in that document. If you don't list as a franchisor how much money people are making in that document, you can't say to anyone. If someone goes, hey, I want to own a Subway, how much can I make? They don't list anything, you can't say anything. You gotta be like, hey, yeah, you gotta deflect. Like, talk to the other franchise owners. I can't help you with that. So you know what Subway shows in that section? Nothing. They refuse to disclose. Now, if you can't read between the lines here, that's usually not a good sign. Because if you're in the business of helping people start a business and you're selling an opportunity that actually works, wouldn't you be excited to share the performance of those stores and those businesses? I guess not if they aren't doing well. Now, fortunately for you and all of us, there are many franchises out there that do show numbers, and big ones at that. I actually put together a list of 5 low-cost franchises that all make $1 million or more, and you can grab it with the link below, or you can go to franchiseempire.com/low-cost. Reason number 4. So food is known to be a low profit margin business overall. I recently pulled up Papa John's FDD, and they showed average profit margins between 5 to 11%. With Subway's costing between $238,000 to $536,000 to get up and running, that's a lot of dough. Now, although Subway doesn't say what the average store makes, some websites online say that the stores average around $420,000 in sales. Now that could be made up, but even at 10% profit margin, that's only $42,000. So if you got an SBA loan for $400,000, your payments would be around $5,000 a month, aka $60,000 a year, which means in this made up scenario, you are actually losing money. Now again, with so many other franchise businesses that have startup costs that are half the cost to open than a Subway, and the average sales are double, why would it make sense to buy a Subway? Or really, most food franchises for that matter. Well, hence the name of this video. Reason number 5. The competition is better. Look, Subway sales really started to take a hit when stores like Jimmy John's, Jersey Mike's, and Firehouse got more popular. I remember going to Subway at least a few times a month back in my day, but it would honestly be my last choice today. Back in the day, Subway really leveraged their $5 footlongs, and it worked. But I feel like they price anchored everyone to want to get their food cheap. So if you're gonna spend $12 on a sub, do you go there, or do you go to Jersey Mike's, or to one of the competitors that just straight up have a better tasting product? And Subway's tried to rebrand and refresh their stores and menus. We'll see if it worked, but I still haven't been to one personally. Have you? So with all things considered, if you're going to consider to buy a franchise, it's often not the biggest name brands that represent the best financial opportunities. As an example, in this video, I break down 7 businesses that made load of money. Now there's some franchises you've never heard of with startup costs less than $500,000 and showing owners who make over $5 million. Now that's a franchise empire. Peace.